Okay. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good day everyone. Thank you so much for spending with us today. We are airing live through the official YouTube channel of University Technology Mara, Malaysia. I am Nur Haslinda Hassan, your moderator from University Technology Mara, Cawangan, Pulau Pinang, Malaysia. This e-forum on advancing teaching and learning in tertiary education is organized by Society for Teaching and Learning for Tertiary Education, which is also known as TELITE, the Office of International Affairs and Academy of Language Studies, University Technology Mara, Cawangan, Pulau Pinang, Malaysia. Dear our e-forum attendees, the transmission of knowledge in formal tertiary education has taken the world by storm since 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world. We would like to dive into the topics of online education in the tertiary level from the perspective of academics from various fields of expertise in Japan, Iraq, New Zealand, and also Malaysia. We are blessed to have incredible panelists for today's e-forum, where we'll be talking about the ins and outs of the tertiary education world by focusing on the open distance learning trends, students' academic integrity during ODL, as well as tips and tricks in publishing in the academia for university students. So here's the flow for our e-forum today. We will start the session by going into the topics of advancing teaching and learning in today's digital education, especially in tertiary education. For our viewers, you may post your questions for the panelists in the comment box throughout the e-forum, as we will have a question and answer session at the end of today's e-forum. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to introduce our panelists for today's e-forum. Our first panelist is from Japan. She is Dr. Kotona Motoyama, who is a senior lecturer of Global Communication Center and international project coordinator at Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. She obtained her Doctor of Philosophy in Human Sciences from Graduate School of Human Sciences of Osaka University. Her research fields are diversity studies, gender studies, sexual minority studies, family sociology, and study of discrimination. Welcome to our forum, Dr. Kotona. Our second panelist is Professor Steve Flint. Professor Flint is the Academic Director of School of Food and Advanced Technology, Massey University, New Zealand. Prof. Flint has a PhD in food technology from Massey University. His present research or professional specialty include food safety and microbiology, biofilm development and control in the food industry. It's a pleasure to have you here, Prof. Flint. Now, our third panelist is Dr. Tamer A. Tabit from Baghdad, Iraq. Dr. Tamer is a researcher and the head of department in the E-Education and Training Department, Arab Council for Electronic Education and Training, Baghdad, Iraq. He obtained his PhD in biophysics, and his specific fields are X-ray, crystallography, and small angle X-ray scattering. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Tamer.
Thank you.
Now, last but not least, our fourth panelist is our very own Dr. Rofiza Abu Bakar, who is currently the head of Center for the Academy of Language Studies, University Technology Mara, Cawangan, Pulau Pinang, Malaysia. She holds a PhD degree in educational psychology from the University of Science, Malaysia. Her experience in learning educational psychology and cognition for her degrees has helped her to apply the knowledge in teaching both language and also swimming. It's an honor to have you today, Dr. Rofi. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the moment that we have been waiting for, the e-forum with our panelists. All right, for round one, We would like to get to know our panelists' expertise in relation to teaching and learning in tertiary education. Let us start with Dr. Kotona. Yes, Dr. Kotona.
All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. Before talking about what I've been doing in education, let me briefly talk about where I work for and my vision of education. I think it clarifies my point in this forum as well. The institute I'm currently working for is called Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, shortened as JAIST. And it is known as the most internationalized graduate university in Japan. More than actually half of students out of around 1,000 students are from different corners of the world. So another unique feature of this institute is that we only have postgraduate students, so no undergraduate students. So in this circumstance, the center I belong to, which is called Global Communication Center, provides language courses as well as content learning courses. Diversity studies and global leadership training seminars and other courses are one of the content learning courses I teach here. For me, being an educator has been my actually dream job because it enables me to be a part of creating future. I believe education taking place not only at schools like university or just school setting, but anywhere actually human relationship take place. So education starts from the beginning of our birth until we actually die. So higher education is just one point in our lifetime education. That is why we need to provide quality of education or high quality of education to young people who are actually the future of our society or of our world. And I believe education is there for people to equip themselves with necessary skills, abilities, and quality to develop themselves so that they can become global leaders who can contribute to the betterment or the happiness of themselves and then others for the betterment of the society as a whole. But the education is not there for creating so-called human resources that can be exploited by the economic reason or something like that. That's why one thing I would like to point out here is that we should use studying instead of learning, because in the picture of learning, it is more of passive, because when we use learn, we need learn from something. So it's more of passive attitude. Instead, I believe studying is more of active attitude, where that's why we call students as students who study something. But anyway, the education is there to provide knowledge, not for the gain of knowledge, but that knowledge has to be used for the practical solution to the real problems they face or people face and then society face. In this regard, I believe educators play an assistant role in education who motivate students by providing variety of opportunity to think by themselves and take necessary actions. Based on such ideas, I have been researching on diversity studies together with my colleagues. This study is our own creation and it aims at the eradication of any form of discrimination from human society through the creation and the application of effective education method to accomplish it. And this study guides us to see diversity from a viewpoint different from the conventional ones, usually based on social categories. But we use the method of backcasting, which some of you are familiar with because it's UN also introduced this concept. The backcasting is the method to plan the future. In the backcasting method, we can use it to imagine what kind of future we want to live in or we want to see. And based on which we try to assess what we have today and think about how to materialize it in the society. And we have introduced this diversity study to university in actually Malaysia, Vietnam, and India. actually 2 years ago, we conducted faculty development based on diversity studies at UITM Shah Alam and Sabah. This FD was like 15 hours long in 3 days, and over 50 faculty members joined this event. Not this event, the faculty development. And then also as a scholar and resident at the Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar, I'm currently teaching this diversity study course online at the IIT Gandhinagar.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right.
Very insightful experience you shared, Dr. Kotona. Yeah, now let's move on to Prof. Flint.
Okay, thank you very much. In my area of interest or area of teaching is food technology, and food technology is a multidiscipline degree. And really what we're trying to do here is develop students who can get jobs in the food industry. So we are probably a little bit different from the traditional university teaching gave students some basic knowledge and basic skills to actually developing students who can walk into a food manufacturing company and actually take on roles with some experience. So we're really training for industry. We do get some students coming through our course who continue on to do postgrad, but most of them actually get very good jobs in the end. So that's what we're really focusing on, and we do that through traditional learning techniques that we've used for many years, so lecturing to groups of students. But since I've been involved in teaching these courses, it's only been 14 years, there's been a dramatic change. So moving from the traditional chalk and talk, if you like, through to project-based learning, which was brought in about 5 years ago, I think now. And project-based learning moved us away from the predominance of lecture-based learning to getting students to actually work on projects. So right throughout the whole course now, we have less emphasis on teaching them in the traditional way and allowing the students the flexibility of working in teams and developing a whole range of skills as well as learning some needed knowledge. And what that does is develop things we call soft skills, which the food industry for which we're training these students really values. And those are things like leadership skills, communication skills, working in teams. And it can be quite challenging for some of these students to do that because they're often not brought up through schools to work in that way. And they do find it a challenge, but it does really give them a heads up, if you like, for the industry because they really appreciate students that can fit into roles in teams. The problem with the development of soft skills through project-based learning is that the real academic students who really want to succeed and gain high marks often suffer because the actual grades of the team are really what is governing their destiny, and some students suffer because of that. And that's kind of unfortunate, and we have to find ways in which we can compensate for that. And we do that by having reflective reports that the students can submit. And those reflective reports give an honest appraisal of how the team operated. It's kept confidential with the staff, but it helps us in terms of grading to try and be a little bit more fair in terms of which students get the best grades in a team situation. So that's probably the biggest challenge we faced in terms of this project-based learning. The other thing I wanted to say is that that really is our undergrad program in terms of how we teach. But when we move into postgrad, we do something a little bit different. We focus on what we call the Socratic Method. So instead of having lectures and lab classes and projects, we actually give students tasks and we focus on tutorials. So we give them a task and we give them an outline and organized discussion groups where they can contribute to the topic and toss around ideas. But then it's up to them to find the information, work with that information, and answer the topic that we've given. And that develops them into critical thinkers and develops them to a stage where they can do independent research. And we feel that is the best way to deal with our postgraduate students in terms of their basic fundamental learning.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Flint. Yeah, I also believe that collaborative tasks, like project-based learning just now is quite challenging task for both educators as well as the students. All right, so now let us move on to Dr. Tamer.
Thank you, Dr. Su. Yes, it's quite interested for in my view, as I mentioned, teaching is an integral part of my identity as an academician. Actually, maybe it's what's happened in my career. That's I started with the teaching, but to improve career after, especially after the PhD level, the opportunity will be there is more and more in the effectiveness of the teaching and research, and also at the same time supervision of the student. What happened with me, maybe I was lucky when I finished. I was from the basic, my BSc is a physics, so major is physics. But my PhD, it was quite in different topics. So the wood science, my supervisor advised me. So that's give me good opportunity to work in two different fields. Actually, I was uh, I was working in the School of International Tropical Forestry, and this is very amazing experience because I'm not definitely I'm not forester. I'm physicist, but what I want to say here, that's the disciplinary tasks. I teaching in the School of International Tropical Forestry, statistical physics in forestry and computer application. That's very important for the statistics and for the data processing there. Meanwhile, I'm teaching in the School of Engineering, the thermodynamic engineering, thermodynamics, and material science, and also sometimes math. That is really it was good opportunity, and it was one of the new uh, vision for me. From this experience, I can say that the experts here is very important. The experts for the education in terms of um, the university teaching and its implication for the teaching effectiveness and also training and evaluation. Here, you need to engage with the field trip, field work. And here you have to go for the industrial design, and you have to do final year projects for the students, and you give them the another sorts of knowledge with need to different thinking skills. That's exactly I can understand what happened now for the transformation gradually to the new sort of education, like the education. You need more skills. Some of these skills is the IT, of course. So that is quite amazing experience for me. Another topic, I can say that 50% of my effort, it was on the research. The research here also is another area we can improve our skills. Research, you have to show the student the good way and the best way and the integrity in the research. From the backgrounds from the BSc, from the undergraduate student. And that is give me also good networking. Networking, I joined the very important um, workshop and international courses overseas. So that is all over at the end of the day will give me more experience. Experience here, one of the uh, cornerstone of the lecturer, university, and how he going to contribute. That is from my point of view. So effectiveness teaching, training, and evaluation make me to work in the very excellent center for the training. And I agree with Dr. Katona, that's not only the student in the class we can do the teaching. We improve career of the sector of the community, of course, for the management, of course, human resource management, IT, publication and research, and as well. Thank you, Doctor. I wish you on time. Thank you,
Yes,
Doctor.
thank you, Dr. Tamer. Yes. Next, let us move to Dr. Rohiza.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, and all the Starlight Committee members for inviting me to today's e-forum. So hi again, everyone. Dr. Kotuna, Dr. Steve, Dr. Tamir, and everyone else. So may God save us all from this COVID-19 pandemic. So a short introduction about myself. I obtained my degree in Bachelor of Education in TESOL, that is Teaching of English as a Second Language from the University of Malaya. And I obtained my Master's in Educational Psychology from the University of Science, Malaysia. And I got my PhD in Educational Psychology as well from the University of Science, Malaysia in 2015. So actually my career in the University Technology Mara, Penang, started in February 1997, so that was 24 years ago. So February has always been a very special month for me. And a little bit about the name February, it's actually a Roman word, the word fabrum. It means purification. So by teaching, I hope that I can also share my experience and have this soul purification. All right, coming back to the subjects that I have taught, I teach diploma students as well as degree students. And for diploma students, I teach English language skills, and that goes to grammar, listening, speaking, reading and writing in English. And for degree students, I also teach English for oral presentations and English for critical academic reading. My task is to help my students master English well, since their mother tongue mainly is Malay language, is the Malay language. And besides, I also supervise PhD students. And why educational psychology for me? It is because by knowing about that, I can understand better my students' creative processes in obtaining and retaining information. For example, how do engineering students learn, or how do engineering students study? Since Dr. Kotona doesn't really prefer the word learn, so I use here the word study. So their preferred styles would be active learning style and visual learning style. So it means they cannot just get all the words, since I'm teaching language, right? So words are there all the time. But if we give them this, definitely they'll go to sleep in class. So it means we have to know, as lecturers, we have to know that these are the preferred styles that they have. They're active, they're visual, and they're also sequential. So we need to give them pictures, diagrams, colors to make it interesting, and also it has to be from one step to another. It has to be the logical steps. And besides this, my new interest would be in knowing more about how to communicate with children with autism through swimming. So that's my new research. And I now know that when I communicate with them, my language needs to be very direct and short and simple and specific. There is no reading between the line. They won't be able to understand it. So it's interesting to me. So I've been enjoying my 24 years of teaching. So I hope I can still go a decade more. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Rafiza. Yeah, I think what we have learned from this first round is that the changing of trends in teaching and learning, how our role as educator as well as student has changed. And as academician, we are bound to do research, but we are also bound to teach and to educate our students. And in relation to this teaching and learning, as what has happened recently, we are all we have changed the landscape of our teaching and learning because of COVID-19 pandemic. So in relation to this, we would like to know your experience, your first-hand experience of online distance learning in relation to your role in the university. So let us start with Prof. Flint. Maybe we can listen from Prof. Flint in the context of New Zealand.
Thank you very much. Well, Massey University, my university, has regarded itself as being the university for distance learning for many years. And that was because the government allowed us to do that. And we traditionally used to send out a lot of printed material to students. Students could study from anywhere in New Zealand. So while we had a traditional campus, we also had this distance campus. And it was very popular. But over recent years, it's become less popular, which we didn't really understand why. We thought that the distance learning mode was good because it meant that people who were in different workplaces could work and study at the same time. But that sort of popularity waned quite a bit. And then we started to move into the digital era and started to put a lot of our material on the web. And so now a lot of our teaching is done through a Moodle system. We call it Stream. Most of you will be familiar with Moodle. And that's our basic tool in terms of getting information out to students in all sorts of ways. So we can give them live lectures, recorded lectures. We can give them printed material that used to be printed traditionally. There's a lot of information that can go on that system, and the students can access that whenever they want. So it gives them flexibility in learning. And we use that not just for distance learning, but for local students as well. So they both benefit from having that continued access to material. The other thing that, of course, came on stream very suddenly for us was relying on something like Zoom or various other media, Microsoft Teams and so on, to allow us to actually give lectures and talk to students live and also recording material as well. And when COVID came on stream, we were remarkably comfortable in doing this. We managed to be able to lock into this very quickly and teach the students with very little disruption. And we were very pleased that we could do that and found, I guess, a new way of teaching, which we're still using today. So at the moment, we've got a bit of a mix of teaching going on. So when I give a lecture, I also have the lecture on Zoom. And the reason I'm doing that is we have one student who's trapped in China with COVID. She's doing our courses, and so I can actually lecture to her as well as lecture to my class simultaneously. The other thing that we have done for a few years now is lecture between our campuses. So we have video links between campuses, so students locally can listen to us live and students at a distant campus can also listen to us. The big problem with this distance learning online is that students do react differently to you when you're present in the room to when you're present online. And often it's quite difficult to get students to ask questions. You really have to work hard at doing that to get some sort of interaction. And a good example, I guess, is the teaching that we do in Singapore, because we teach our food technology degree in Singapore. And the partners that we work with in Singapore, initially they were not very happy about us doing online distance learning. In fact, we were encouraged very much to go over to Singapore and to lecture live. But on occasions, we had to lecture from a distance using online systems like Zoom. And we found that there was an issue, and that the students, if we actually met the students first, or if we flew to Singapore and met the students and got to know them, when we came back to New Zealand and continued our lectures online, they were a lot more receptive and they talked a lot more and interacted with us, which was really good. But if we started lecturing online before ever meeting these students, then there was some resistance for the students to interact. And so that was a real challenge for us to overcome that. And I think it's still the same today. Students definitely respond better if you can meet them first and they get to know you. And it's a lot more difficult to get to know you online. One of the things we found during the COVID lockdown, when we had to do all our teaching online, is that the student opinion was that they valued what we did. They valued we could continue with their education through that whole system using online-based methods. But if they had a choice, they'd prefer to have a live lecture. So that was interesting to us. We felt that, you know, they were still learning, they could still study effectively. There were certainly challenges in doing this, particularly when we want students to do some sort of practical work. I mean, obviously they can't do lab work online, but we overcame that by giving them the data to analyze. And so even though, you know, this was a challenging year for us, they were still able to get through by doing a lot of the analysis and work associated with laboratory practical work through us being able to give them data and coach them through the analysis process.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Prof. Thank you very much for the sharing. Yeah, I think we also, maybe some of us share the same challenge as well in ODL learning. So now let us listen to Dr. Tamer from the Iraq context.
Thank you once again. Yes, the OLD now is a new experience for us, but it depends on the technology available and infrastructure. And beside it's the trainer or the instructor or the lecturer, he is able to do and able to perform properly. So for my view, I think the institutions, and in my experience, in my work in the one institution, was able to adjust quickly due to the, let me say, amazing technical team as well, just based on the stuff. As the IT now is the main required skills, the IT inclined nature of the staff in our work field. Some of them is very friendly with the IT, and they have skills enough to teach online, and also to can do the skills and can perform well with the current educational model. So for me, if I talk, for example, how is the study process structured? Yes, it can be structured not exactly same the ordinary class. There is the base of the technical and the using how to use the, for example, the platform, and some of skillful can do groups for the student in channels and give the suitable evaluations. And what do you maybe lack in this work? For me personally, maybe I lack the human contact. Human contact. Why? As previously, and I started as my earlier career as a teacher, I love my course students and my interaction with them during the class and during the tutorial time, and also as well during the discussion in the final year project. That's will be one factor. Is I consider it is like in this OLD. And OLD also, I found that's regarding to the course quality and scientific content. Maybe is the structure. I was expecting something, when the structure is much better than I expected. I don't really see the difference between the online and offline structure, unless the evaluation and the credibility of the evaluation. Difficulties in or the difficulties in the evaluation and assessment. That's another maybe important topic we consider, is not really now is on the level of the quality. I have also in this, from my instruction, my class, I allocate time slot for discussion. This discussion can also give insight to the student for the another maybe issues related to the class, as an academic class, or as an training. You know, you need to do application. You need to do models. Here, you hear me, doctor?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so there's application. You have to do application. For example, if you teaching or about the maybe how to do the digital question, sorry, digital questions or exam. You have also to do so application and 1 hour at least for the, and this is enough time to reach the idea. Overall, in my view about the OLD, maybe some demerits in the evaluation. Evaluation and assessment, the credibility here, we also we have right now to keep the student open the webcam so we know his performance, but still the camera was switched on whole time, so that it could see what the student maybe if he tried to be misconduct or not. I think that it was fair right now, and also using the different tools in the instruction and during the lecture.
All right, Dr.
And
Tamir.
that's what. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Tamir.
Okay.
We will discuss in more detail about the, like you said just now, the credibility of assessment and evaluation. We will dive into it in our third round.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tamir, for the insights. All right, now let us move on to the context of Malaysia, which I think we are also facing the same challenges as you guys in New Zealand and also Iraq. And we are yet to listen to Dr. Kotona, what happened in Japan, right? All right. Maybe can we hear from Japan first, Dr. Kotona?
Sure, sure. Though my experience, of course, can never represent Japanese society, yet I mean, I guess like depending upon overall Japan, the Ministry of Education tried to introduce this online education as much as possible, but actually the infrastructure is still a bit, behind the targeted goal, I guess. So it may be very different, but for the JICE case, thanks to the infrastructure, a sufficient infrastructure provided by our institute, actually, all the courses I have been teaching since April last year is all online. And that was also, if we talk about the special diversity study project I carry out with my colleagues in collaboration with the city government, which is a public place, it was a bit tough to carry out because of the lack of infrastructures and the age of targeted students. This project, briefly said, aims at connecting all the public education from nursery school to high school. So total of 15 years, and they try to introduce global society and the importance of respecting diversity. And we use online classes to all the students, like junior high and senior high school students, but it was impossible to teach 4 or 5-year-old kids online. So it was a bit challenging, but still, with all these sufficient infrastructures, I'd say ODL was very much possible, and I found a lot of advantages if we could maximize merits of online education and what technology and it means can provide us, as I think Professor Flint also indicated in his university case. But one of the merits that I found through my using of ODL, was that first of all, there were students who couldn't join JICE or come to Japan because of this COVID-19 from other places. For them, actually, they could join the class online and they can gain some unit. That was definitely positive point. And the second one, which is I'm currently doing, that I'm participating in this online event, like, international event, very much possible. And then also I teach course at IIT Gandhinagar, although ODL cannot overcome time differences particularly. So it's a big challenge, but still I think we can still, it's a doable. And then because of this ODL, no need to travel, which is very much time saving and money saving. At the same time, we don't have to deal with this jet lag or anything like that. And then I teach the course, like a year-round course called Global Leadership Training Seminar. And there we discuss global problems and current global news and think about what we can do. And we have new students who haven't been able to come to Japan, and also students who have already graduated and live in a different place, and they also join. So actually, we can come up with all different kind of ideas from all over the world with different knowledge, different backgrounds, which I think becomes, which kind of secure the richness of the course as well. And another thing, we took advantage of academic collaboration with IIT of OLD is we had conducted online international workshop together with the university we have academic collaboration with, which is IIT Gandhinagar this year. We talk about education under pandemic and future vision of education in a post-pandemic era. And this workshop started from last year, and actually the first one was with UITM Shah Alam. But this workshop, total of 32 participants, like 16 from each institute, consisting of 8 students, 4 office staff members, and 4 faculty members together to discuss and present how to create practical change in education in the post-pandemic era. And if you think about this much of participation, I think ODL just make it possible. Because if you think about 16 people flying together, I cannot imagine. And
Yes.
this kind of extensive academic collaboration, we can also take advantage of this ODL. So that's what I think I can talk about.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Kotana. Yeah, indeed, that's the pros, the benefits of ODL, right? That maybe sometimes we focusing more on the negative, the negative side of coronavirus. All right.
Yeah,
so
I agree with that.
Yes. All right. So now let's move on to the Malaysian context from Dr. Rofiza. Okay. Dr. Rofi, you are muted.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Right, thank you again, Haslinda, Madam Chairperson, for inviting me to talk again about the ODL experience. Before that, maybe I can tell a little bit of I can bring you back to the year 2020 when the pandemic was in rage, yeah? So, and before that, let me just tell you about the overall picture of UITM. Now, UITM Penang is one of the many branches that we have in Malaysia. And UITM is actually the largest university in Malaysia. And at one time, we have about 170,000 students. So just imagine that. And in Penang itself, we have about 7,000 students. So when we had this total lockdown in March 2020, what we had to do, our main concern was to get the immediate responses about the readiness of our students for ODL. And our motto is no one can be left behind. So can you imagine 170 students, 170,000 students. So are they ready? So a survey was administered to more than 50,000 students, and 64% of the whole, I think, responded, and they are ready for ODL. All right, so whether we liked it or whether we are resistant, like what Prof. Flint said just now,
we had to start with this implementation. So we had this full implementation on the 13th of April 2020. And then all the lecturers must monitor their students, yeah? And about 97% of these students were involved with this ODL. And another 3% who could not, get themselves with this, we reached to them through posting the learning materials. So that is the extent that UITM did for her students, okay? And then 2 months later, in June 2020, these students' experiences were again sought for, and 52% reported that they had encouraging experience, whereas another 16% reported that they had less encouraging experience, and another 32% reported neither encouraging nor discouraging. Yeah, so that's the kind of ODL experience to the whole UITM context Malaysian-wide. So let me now bring you to the Penang experience, or my own experience about this ODL thing. So at first, of course, when we are introduced to new things, there is little resistance, and we were concerned about the platforms that we had to use. Whether do we have to use Zoom? Do we have to use Google Meet for that matter? Or do we have to use Microsoft Teams like what we are having today? Okay, so we need to adjust quickly so that we are conversant and proficient with the usage of this platform. But we in UITM, we are very lucky because we have online tutorials done by our very conversant colleagues such as Dr. Suhaila, whom we have today. Okay, and then at the same time as for me, I would look at YouTube tutorials, and thanks to all these good Samaritans, yeah, we can always repeat what we don't know, and it is done according to my own pace. I learn through my own pace, okay? And then we are also concerned about the internet quality. Is it strong? Is it weak? All right? But we never leave our students behind. About UITM Penang itself, in May 2020, we asked our students to respond to a survey, and about 519 of them responded, and 82% of them reported less encouraging experience. Only 18% reported encouraging experience, so we have to know more about this. And all the right. Less, can I just go for one more minute? So the less encouraging one is like, the difficulty in order to adapt with ODL. And sometimes they also talked about lecturers' intolerance. So we have to have more studies about this so that there can be more corrective measures and coping strategies about this ODL. But one thing good about ODL is that, today we are meeting over this, we are having this e-forum, and without this ODL, I don't think we will have something like this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rofiza. Right. Our panelists have talked about the challenges of online learning, right? We have to go with asynchronous and synchronous classes. We have problems with the infrastructure, the internet connection and whatnot. And also, like Prof. Kotona said, it's very interesting that it is quite difficult for primary school students to have an online learning, right? And I think that is the same challenge that we have in Malaysia. Thank you very much, our panelists. Before we move on to our third round, we have actually prepared a montage for our e-forum attendees. All right, our montage is actually about our very new society, which is known as Starlight. All right, Starlight is an initiative from our rector, and it is a Society for Teaching and Learning for Tertiary Education, and we welcome all academician and also postgraduate students to join our society. Now let us enjoy the montage that has been prepared. Okay, welcome back to our attendees and also panelists. So now let us move on to our round 3. Like I said just now, we are going to delve into the online distance learning. But in this round, we are going to go into the academic integrity in ODL. I mean, as we all know, with online, everything is at our fingertips. So it is actually a challenge for us and also for our students with regards to academic integrity. So in this round, we will start with Dr. Kotona. Sorry, Dr. Tamir. Sorry, Dr. Tamir. Maybe Dr. Tamir can share with us in terms of your academic role, maybe how can academician promote the integrity in today's ODL?
Yes, thank you once again, Dr. Suhaila. This is the most crucial in the education and also in the research. Academic integrity. Academic integrity, then from the definition, that is the means fundamental ethical approach. And this must be implemented and preserved, fostered. Actually, fostered with the level of students and the research. Here I can say that even though this term is closely defined as acting in according to the value and principle, but what can do with the integrity? And I can now maybe start with the teaching or with the lecturer. The first way maybe we can do, that's the instructor in terms of the undergraduates teaching, even though in the maybe the learning in the school, must talk to the student about academic integrity. This most effective way to prevent academic misconduct. This is one way. Okay. Beside the reporting all the cases of the suspect academic misconduct, maybe, and also show student how for what's the authorized and unauthorized collaboration in the team in terms of the solving problem, or also in terms of the teamwork. If I go to publication, for example, if I go to research, maybe citation, one of the very important issues, always this issue raised for the misconduct and also for the plagiarism. We must tell the student that all ideas and information they incorporate into their work should be referenced, even personal communication. So any published material, always for one of the citation from any published material should be referenced accordingly. Always we tell the student. That is one. But the problem not here. There is, for example, in terms of maybe Dr. Nur Hafiza, she this topic with the language. The native, non-native language student, actually, they feel quite difficult to write. They do write, but they need to something is perfect. So maybe Dr. Hafiza, when you read article, with some part is very perfect and the other part is unrelated. So that is one of the integrity here. That is must talk to the student, talk and talk and talk. On the other hand, in the class, the limits of aid each other. That is also, we have to be in the limitation. Integrity in the academic is much important, of course, from the just for example, if my student always he need to publish last time in this master student. So is if they quoted the theory without own style, that is a problem in the academic integrity. So we must tell the student that also academic integrity and misconduct, fraud, and whatever kind sort of dishonest is also, this is definitely will damage the future and also the career. What can do also, we can do always to improve the terms of the integrity for the student to know what is our limitation in terms of the academic activities. That is, I just talk about the one I really always in touch with the publication and also in the review time to time. Thank you, Dr. Su.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Tamir. Yeah.
Okay.
Communication is the key. Yeah. All right. Okay. Now let's move on to Dr. Rofiza.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairperson, again. So let's look at the meaning of academic integrity. Firstly, what does it mean? It means that we have to be responsible academically. And this is an issue which is globally celebrated, actually. And Umar ibn al-Khattab, a friend of Prophet Muhammad SAW, once said that, evaluate yourself before you are evaluated. So it means that integrity here is important not just for students during ODL, but for all, right? All the time. So we can understand why academic dishonesty is being conducted. Like what Dr. Tamir said just now, they are, okay, when we read our students' work, yeah, we can find that several sentences are very perfect, whereas other sentences are down the drain. So I think there are a few reasons why this happened. The first one is because our students are overwhelmed by the vast information that they have with them. All right, so everything looks so tempting, everything looks so good. Why don't we just take everything and put it in our report? Secondly, it's because they lack the summarizing skills and also the paraphrasing skills. So that needs to be also perfected by our students. And then again, there's no proper citation. And another thing is maybe pure laziness. So copying is the easy way out, perhaps. And another thing is because some also think that sharing their work is not a crime. Sharing answers with their friends is not a crime. So I think in class, what we can implement is, for us to overcome this academic dishonesty is by perhaps limiting the test time. So it means that when the time for the test is limited, it means that they don't have ample time to go and check answers over the internet or asking their friends for that. Or another way is for us to have multiple sets of questions. It's a little bit daunting to the lecturers, but this is one way of doing it. And students too can be required to switch on their cameras so that we know what's going on while they are taking their test. And another thing is for us to present questions which have more the elements of higher order thinking skills, which means that students will have to analyze and synthesize and evaluate rather than just giving out or just write again what they have learned. What UITM has done to curb academic dishonesty is we have students sign the academic integrity contract. And then again, like what Dr. Tamir said, we lecturers give them verbal advice repeatedly, all right, because humans tend to forget. And we also have circulars and videos. So that's about academic integrity from me. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Rofiza. There are some measures that should be taken to curb the academic dishonesty. Now let us move on to Dr. Kotona.
All right, thank you. In my idea, if you talk about academic integrity in the conventional manner, actually the ODL might not work well, as many of you have indicated, I guess, like there are some, dishonesty or something like that. But I've heard a lot from, quite many people that they're longing for going back to the so-called ordinary educational environment that we used to have. But I believe, unfortunately, it will never go back to the past because we have already experienced the huge changes. But at the same time, this pandemic has provided us opportunities to reconsider the meaning of education in general and function of university in particular. So it also makes students rethink about why they want to come to university in the first place. In Japan, of course, I can never overgeneralize it, but because of a bitter competition to enter university, many students misunderstand. I have to say misunderstand that university are there to be free from all the work, but but anyway, my point here is that what we need now is not feeling of nostalgia for the past and remaining unchanged, but seeking for the direction to develop education by taking advantage of this change we have experienced and adding necessary changes to materialize a better future. That's why I would say that we need to think about the creation of new academic integrity based on the merits of ODL. Then to take advantage of merits of ODL and ensure the quality of education, of course, lecturers need to make differences, a different arrangement or extra arrangement to stimulate students. On the other hand, the students also need to rethink about why they're studying what they're studying. So maybe setting their own goals or asking them to set their own goals would help them achieve what they want to acquire in university education. To activate the lecture in based on my idea, what I do is I provide question sheets in advance and let students think before the class. So then we try to find answer together in the class. In this way, students will be able to state their ideas in the class. And one of the huge merit of ODR would be the use of chat functions, which works kind of perfectly to young generation, I guess. Especially young people are very much familiar with typing and expressing their ideas in a chat function, chat ways. So instead of asking questions and listen to the ideas in voice, I used to do that in a face-to-face lecture, but it takes long time. And then, the blank time in online is no. So what I do is asking questions and then ask them to state their opinions, chat. And then what I heard from students is those who think, are shy to say their ideas in voice, actually, they feel much easier to state their opinions in chat function. But also, I use a breakout session for group discussion quite often. I guess depending upon what kind of online system you use, it may not be available. But what I use here at JICE and IIT Gandhinagar enable me to do the breakout session, which help them to have a group discussion, and then based on that they present their ideas, so that we can do that too. And lastly, and then, but on the other hand, I am a bit questionable to providing recorded lecture only, if that is effective or not. I'm not sure. I guess it might work for some field and subject, but not in my field, because I believe that just providing knowledge or remembering knowledge is not enough to ensure the quality of education, but students need to think the thinking process is more important. So I found some problem is so-called high flex lecture, in which half students are online, half students participate offline. I think it doesn't ensure the quality of education in my idea, because it creates kind of inequality between students who take online and who sit in the class. But lastly, adding to Dr. Rofisa before, I think I believe collaboration among different campuses of UITM, because you have a large member in UITM campus, and then I know that all the states have the campus. So if you can take advantage of this ODL through different campuses and connecting students from different campus, I think it would help the UITM students to kind of take advantage of this pandemic situation. I think that's what Professor Flint University already been doing, I guess. But I think UITM is such a large university. I think you can take advantage of that. And then not only in a UITM network, but you can I guess, expand to the collaboration with the university you have academic collaboration with. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Dr. Kotona. Thank you very much for, I think your insights are very, very positive ones. All right, now let's move on to Professor Flint.
Yes, thank you very much. I guess the first thing I'd like to say is that academic integrity has always been an issue. And we notice it mostly with some of our postgrad students and through plagiarism. And to be honest, some students from certain backgrounds really struggle to understand what plagiarism is. And they feel guilty about rewording or rethinking or reporting something that someone else has said and not actually copying what they have said. And it often takes a while for them to learn these concepts and learn that this is wrong. So I think, that's the first thing, that it's always been an issue. But with online learning, it has become more of an issue, particularly when we're trying to do assessments. And that is something that we have struggled with. And I know during the COVID lockdown last year, we really compensated for the fact that we knew that students were going to use the systems online to get answers to questions that we'd asked them. And we probably weren't that prepared for assessing online. So what we found was that students performed better in their tests when they were doing them online than they did when they were doing them, in a lecture room. And there's obvious reasons for that. But I think as a result of that, we've learned in terms of the types of questions, as Dr. Nofriza said, you have to give them higher level thinking and interpretation questions rather than just getting them to answer a question on, say, a definition of a concept. You really have to get them to think about a scenario and interpret that scenario. And to be honest, that's actually a better way of examining anyway, because it's getting them to think about things in more depth rather than just regurgitate information that they have been taught. So essentially what we're doing now, I think, is a much better way of examining. And I feel that students are being more fairly tested as a result of the types of questions we're asking them. The other thing that we do is, obviously there's many different ways of asking questions, and we have, multi-choice and short answer and a whole range of different ways of doing it. But one of the ways we overcome the trust or the integrity issue is by having a huge bank of questions. And I think Dr. Nofriza alluded to that before, but we have a lot of questions. And they're all of a similar level and they're randomized. So it gets really difficult for students to copy off others and cheat, if you like, because of the way the whole examination is run. And the benefit from the academics point of view is, every year we tend to, set exams and set new questions. But if you've got all these questions online ready to go, it's easy to set exams in subsequent years. You can just use the same exam because every year, every student gets a different set of questions. So we found that working quite well, and that's what we're really focusing on at the moment. We have had some difficulties, and the difficulties seem to be around timing. There are students who occasionally have issues with the internet and occasionally have issues with, scanning material. And in terms of things like, I guess if you had to draw things, if you're doing some sort of arts thing, in my particular case, it's mathematics that's the issue, because it's not very easy to actually answer mathematical questions on a computer. And so what students tend to do is they write them down, they scan them and have to scan them into the computer. And that takes a bit of time. So we have to give them some extra time to compensate for that. And that's okay. But even with that, we still find the students sometimes run over time and they don't get their answers in on time. So that's a bit of an issue for us. But I think, with time, we'll manage to deal with that a lot better, with better scanning techniques. One thing, there's probably two things I think we could think about for the future. The first is making more use of oral exams. And I think Dr. Kotona kind of alluded to this before, where she was running conversations with the students. But, an oral exam means the student has to respond instantly to the question in person. And that's a real fair assessment. There's no way you can doubt the integrity of that. So maybe making more use of oral exams would be useful. It could be quite time consuming, whereas some of the other methods of assessment, like the randomized question bank, is certainly less time consuming. And the other thing, which is just looking out to the future, and I only just thought about this tonight, you know, maybe there's some online IT solutions to this. So when a student is sitting an exam, they have to go into a website which blocks access to anything except that website. They're locked into it. They can't go anywhere on the internet. You know, maybe that would help in terms of forcing integrity on students when they're doing an assessment. I don't know if this sort of thing's available or not, but you know, maybe somebody's heard of some systems that would work.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Prof. Flint. Yeah, I think it is very imperative for us as educators to change the landscape of our evaluating and assessing our students with ODL and academic integrity problems that we are facing nowadays. All right. And now let us move to round 4. In this round, we would like to focus more on postgraduate students. As such, we are going to discuss about the tips and tricks in publishing, especially for university students, like maybe for them to turn their research projects or dissertation into a publication. Or maybe the panelists would like to share with us some useful insights for our students to tackle these publication issues. I would like to invite Dr. Rofiza to start the session.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Chairperson, once again. So I'll be talking about my experience since I've been entrusted with the responsibility in being the chief editor of our journal, International Journal of Practices in Teaching and Learning. And before that, I was also the chief editor for the esteemed Journal of Social Sciences and Humanities, and my experience in being in the editorial board of a journal in Indonesia. So this is the experience of my handling papers which are submitted to the journals. Yeah. So as an English lecturer, I believe that we must write clearly. And that's a pretty easy concept to follow. We follow the IMRD concept. This has been introduced by a few professors in UITM. Yeah. So when we talk about IMRD, the first one we have the introduction. The second one we have the methodology. The third one is the results, and the fourth one is discussion. So for the first one, that is introduction, surely we need to have the purpose of the study. All right. What's the purpose of writing this research paper or this journal article? And then there should be also a very clear problem statement and also a well-articulated literature and a very clear research question or research objective. Right. This one is, of course, we need practice to do this. Yeah. And then the methodology part, we have to state our research design, our sampling, the detailed process of generating and also analyzing data. All this must also be written very clearly. And then when we talk about the third one, the results, yeah. Analysis must be presented over there. And then the last one is the discussion part. Over here, we can highlight the key findings. Yeah. So perhaps this is where we answer a very famous question, the so what? Yeah, the so what question. So it means that how our research has advanced, the past research. And then after that, we talk about the significance or how we address gap in literature. And not forgetting, we can introduce a new way of expanding our research. Now, writing needs practice, and practice makes perfect. Yeah, it is not easy. It's not that easy for us to write, but we can always try and write, because if we don't write anything, therefore there'll be nothing for us to edit. So we must write. Okay, so that's my tips about publishing for students. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Rofiza. So I think the flow of the article is very important. All right. So now let's move on to Dr. Tamir.
Thank you once again, Madam Chairperson, Doctor. That is the field that I like, the publication and from a review point of view, not from chief editor, my highly respected Dr. Rafisa. Dr. Rafisa, I will just highlight what you exactly you presented, what the perfect, the good technical paper. I would say, for example, for the scheme of work methodology, that's one of the demerits that the several authors, of course, I talk about the student mostly, and maybe this is the very senior author is they cannot, we will be more aware about that. Scheme of work should be accomplished with the objective set forth. That is, you can find the methodology is really lacking, not accomplished with the objectives. So how you get the outcome or the result? That is okay. So what is this about the methodology? The other thing is that is your field is the technical writing. Technical writing is there is exactly you must, even when you cited the from the any published material, you not allowed to take the same statement. That is always can find it. Repetition, avoid the repetition. Also, that is all things. The another maybe major mistake that in the data analysis. Data analysis in many in several times doesn't reflect the exactly the interpretation, the conclusion. That is also one problem. I can give some recommendation to use the time, the short time given. This is based of the journals of the data. Manuscript, for example, the articles published within last 10 years can use for citation. This is one to improve the citation. And also we have to give maybe always a well-known author can give them also to be the reviewer. That's in our for the review, or also from the improve the technical writing. I have for a student only one comment for the publishing. Dr. So said about the thesis or dissertation. Actually, just my personal view, I have seen many students publish their thesis as a book. For example, it's from X, I don't say X publisher or publishing house, something. It's from as per the student who publish their thesis. For in my opinion, is not actually it's not good idea. Why? Because always we know that the thesis is more specialized, not general. You have to, when you write a book, is massive the change you have to do. This one. And writing, rather than writing the whole thesis and dissertation, you better for that. Instead, you should make research papers and submit it to reputed peer-reviewed journals, which will finally surely increase the scientific impact of your work. Or at the end of the day, you will get good publication with good index, maybe, or based of the strength of the work. That is one recommendation. And thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Tamer. So I hope postgraduate students can really benefit from what Dr. Tamer has explained to us. Thank you very much, Dr. Tamer. For our e-forum attendees, if you have any questions, please you can you can type your questions in our chat box. so that yeah, we can extend the question to our panelists next round. Okay, now let us move on to Professor Flint.
Okay, thank you very much once again. Publishing, well, that's an interesting one. With my PhD students, when they first start with me, I tell them I have an expectation. And that expectation is that they will write 3 publications in the course of their study. So I expect them to have 3 publications at least drafted, if not fully published, by the time they are ready to submit their thesis. And they generally take that very seriously, and that puts them on track to actually do the job. And the other thing I tell them at the same time is that if you do publish your material, it's going to be reviewed by experts in the field. And so that gives them confidence when they go for their thesis examination that their work is up to standard. Of course, it doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to pass the examination, but it does give them confidence and lets them know that they're on the right track. And I think that really helps in terms of giving them the incentive to focus on doing publications. Now, what's happened in recent years at Massey University is that we have recently allowed theses by publication. This is something that we traditionally didn't allow until about, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. So we had to have students produce a traditional thesis, complete piece of work, and publications could still come during the study. They could be bound into the back of the thesis, but the thesis was a standalone document. Now we can do theses by publication, and a lot of students are incentivized by that, to the point that most of our students want to produce a thesis this way. And it's debatable whether this is the best way to produce a thesis or not. I know some academics are very much against that, and for good reason. And I know that what can happen when you actually start writing a thesis by publication is that you can have a whole series of publications that don't really knit together very well. And I know one of my students was criticized for this and had to have linking paragraphs or statements that explain how one chapter related to another. So there can be challenges on that. But, the publication side is particularly important. And, we do expect our students to publish while they do their PhD. The only exceptions to that would be where they're working on a project for a company. And a lot of our students are funded by companies. And unfortunately, many companies regard the work that they're working on as confidential, and that makes it really difficult for a student to publish. And unfortunately, we have to live with that. There's nothing we can do about that. It's just one of those things. So the other thing I want to mention with regard to publications is that most of our students are international students, and certainly in the postgraduate area. Unfortunately, not too many New Zealanders want to do PhDs. So we rely a lot on our international students, and English is often a second language for them. And some of them struggle. Many of them don't, but some of them really do struggle. And so we do have to run courses to help them to learn how to write clearly, succinctly, not put in too much needless comment and needless words. Some of them seem to think that quantity is more important than quality. And, we really have to do a lot of training in terms of helping them get through. The worst case is where students really, really struggle with the English language. And I have had some situations, it's quite rare, where I have to go through maybe a paragraph for a student and then give the document back to the student for them to work on and try and copy what I've done. And this goes back and forth and can take a long, long time to actually get to the point where you have a document that is good enough to publish. But in spite of all that, we do get our students through, and they do succeed in producing some really good publications. I insist that the student's name is always first. It's their work. It's got to be their name that comes first. I also tell the students that writing publications is not easy. It's not easy for any of us. It's tough, and they've got to be prepared to get comments back that they may not like. So you have to be prepared for failure. You may not get into a journal. Publications are tough. And I think that's character building for them. It sets them up for a good life in research. We all have to face this. So they're certainly learning through the process of doing this. They're learning a lot about life, a lot about being an academic, a lot about being a researcher.
All right, thank you, Prof. Flint. Yes, a very interesting point there because me and Dr. Rofiza, we are English teachers, English educators. So yeah, in Malaysia also it is our second language. So we are facing the same problem as well. All right, so now let's move on to Dr. Kotona.
Well, for this one, actually, the last person will be very difficult because all the people, all the professors and doctors have stated, clearly that, techniques and then, what kind of mindset you need to have. That's why I don't mention all these things because depending upon the field, you need to find out there is a particular format that you need to follow to write the paper. So that's why I think that's what you can also consult with your professors or your supervisor. That's why I think anyone can make such advice. So I think I'm going to talk about a little bit different perspective from all these panelists. I know that the publication is one of the criteria for your degree, which I'm aware, and then which is actually one of the criteria for the promotion for professors and the lecturers as well. I understand. I'm aware of that. In order to kind of survive in academic field, that's one thing that you need to tackle with. But I just want to be aware, or I just want to remind all of us that just if we think about publication for the sake of publication, I think it'd be very difficult to not only to produce papers, but also I guess I have a very big question mark about that because if you just think about academic field and society, actually academic field is in the society, not apart from the society. So I think we all need to think about what kind of contribution we can make or what kind of impact we can create, not only in academic field, but in society as a whole. Because I think academic or education is there for us to develop our society and develop ourselves or to make a better society. So I just would like all of us to remember, that why do we study? Why do we do research? I think that's very important in terms of not only writing papers, but also why we are here in academic field. And then also, I'm also have a concern about that, publication becomes the means to compete or means for competition among university. I guess, like as I said, education is there to provide important knowledge for students to acquire necessary skills and abilities for themselves and for the society. So I just like to kind of remember or remind me of the importance of the purpose of the university or education in particular. But in addition to based on that, I still think publication has some meaning, and then in order to work on your paper, as all the panelists kind of indicated, it's very challenging for not only students, but also all the faculty members as well. It takes time, but what I can suggest is if you have kind of other members who can help you brainstorm and then your ideas, and you come up with some statements, or you try to analyze what have been written in the previous literature, then you share. It means you can understand, then based on which you can try to find out the research question. And then when you have a research question, you talk with your colleagues, your friends, whether that kind of question is appropriate or not for the paper. And that's why I think having a collaboration with other people is one very important kind of parts to produce a paper. Another thing is is that this is, I mean, I have been also I mean, my paper has been also rejected many times. And this is very discouraging. As if like my personality has been denied. Like that kind of, you feel in that way. But, rejection of the paper is not denying your personality. So don't ever be discouraged too much if you receive, rejection paper, a rejection letter. I think it means, I think there are some advice to your paper, so that what you can do is, based on which you can try to improve your paper, and you try to, publish to submit your paper to another conference or another journal or something like that. So we definitely need to have positive thinking, not only publishing paper, but in our life, I think. So thank you very much. All right.
All right. Yes, I totally agree with you, Dr. Kotona. And it's a very refreshing insights you have shared with us, right? And I think publishing is one of an important thing that a postgraduate student have to do. But like Dr. Kotona said, we should not focus too much on having the quantity over the quality, right? And in publishing, we should be aware of the technical part as well as the language part. Those are the two important things. All right, thank you very much, our panelists. We are going to have our question and answer session. But before we have our question and answer session, I would like to bring your attention to a bit of promotion. We have our very first journal, which is called International Journal of Practices in Teaching and Learning, or also known as IJPTL. Our beloved Dr. Rofiza is the chief editor of this journal. And this is also a special project by our rector. And IJPTL has published its maiden issue in February 2021 with the theme Corporate Social Responsibility. And we are inviting academicians, postgraduate students from all over the world to come and support us, and to maybe you can share your research with us and publish with us. And you can access IJPTL via www.ijptl.uitm.edu.my. Another program coming is our conference, first international conference on modern languages and applied linguistics, which is also known as ICMAL 2021. It is a virtual conference, and the theme is revolutionizing language education in the new norm. This conference will be held in 14 to 15 September 2021. For more information, you can log into http://icmal2021, ICMAL, ICMAL 2021.com. We offer a very minimal fee with where selected papers will be published in academic journal. All right. So yeah, those who are interested, please come and join us. All right. Now let us take some questions from the chat box. So do you have questions? Okay, yes. We have one question from Eddie Suhardi. So Eddie Suhardi asks, one of the feedback from students regarding ODL session is losing focus because of challenge from family members, like disturbing them, and conducive environment at home, or laziness. So what would be your best advice to this problem? All right, maybe can we start with Dr. Kotona, maybe?
About the environment, that's what I also heard from my students as well, especially if it's a kind of I don't want to say disturbance from the family, but like some if you live with your family members or other members, then it could be very difficult. So you need to communicate with that that you need to take this class or you have to do that. But that's one thing. But about the laziness, that's also I hear from students a lot. That's why the tape recorded, how can I say, like a recorded lecture being uploaded, then they can watch whenever they want. That kind of arrangement sometimes very helpful for some students because for some students they are good at morning hours, but some people they are good at nighttime hours. So that's one arrangement the university can do. But another thing that I'd like to focus on is uh, for those who think, who they lose their, the concentration. I just like you to think about, okay, what are you learning, and then how do you think you can use the knowledge you're studying there for the practical, for the their application to the society or to yourself. If that kind of idea you have, then the attitude you have may be very different. That's one thing that students can do. Another thing that lecturers' responsibility is we cannot just talk and then we need to have a kind of arrangement to entertain students. That's why if you can use the chat function, then you try to ask questions so that they can concentrate on answering. Maybe also if you can make arrangement of shorten the lecture, for example, then of course it may help also, or especially for undergraduate students. But if that arrangement is impossible, I would say, maybe the lecturers are responsible to rearranging or arranging the lecture that we used to use in offline lecture, because the arrangement has to be completely different for online education, in my understanding. So the asking question or using chat function or some, online system has, survey system that they can use. I think I heard some professor use that. Then it works very much in an effective way. So for both student side and the lecturer side, we need to make efforts to have efficient or effective lecture, I guess. Sorry if that's answering the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kotana. Or maybe other panelists would like to add?
I think I'll add there. About combating laziness, I think students will have to have self-discipline, and they too have to remember that when we come to the university, it's not just about obtaining knowledge, but it's also about disciplining ourselves, because we are going to be someone with functions in the society. So education is, partly training us for that. So combating laziness has to come from us. It's very difficult if we don't want to do anything about this. And then about the interruption from family members, I can understand this because this is also the comments made by a lot of students. Maybe what we can do is that, we need some kind of understanding from the family members' side as well. And if it's very, very serious, if let's say this problem cannot be curbed, therefore students can come back to our campus. There's no problem about it. You can always come back to our campus, no problem. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rofiza. All right, we have another question. So I think for this question, Dr. Samir and Prof. Lin can answer this question. All right, this question is from Razanawati Norvin. The question is, dear panelists, how do you keep your students motivated during OTL for 14 weeks for the whole semester? So how do you keep your students motivated during the ODL? So maybe we can start with Prof. Flint.
Yes, for sure. Definitely that's a challenge, and I think Dr. Katona kind of alluded to that before, where we're actually having to entertain the students. And I think when you're doing it through ODL, it's more difficult than it is when you've got the students there in person. I mean, we have to entertain them anyway, but if you could walk around a lecture theatre and actually physically be close to them, you see whether they're paying attention or not. It's easier for us as academics to focus on those students, ask the students who clearly look like they're not paying attention to question, and they'll wake up and engage. With ODL, it's not so easy because you can see them, but it's hard to tell, especially with a big class. And sometimes they don't have their cameras on, and so it's very difficult to get that feedback. But the only real way is to try and keep it active and try and keep them engaged. It is more of a challenge with ODL. I think one thing that is an advantage for students is the recordings, because if you have a recorded lecture, they can stop, start, fast forward, and if they're finding a section boring, they can move to a section that maybe is better for them in terms of what they're after. So it gives them more flexibility in terms of picking sections that they might be most interested in and missing parts that they already know. So yeah, it is a challenge, and I think it's something we as academics have to work on. We've got to learn to be able to present in a clear and focused and entertaining way. And while we have to do it in a lecture room, and learning things like Toastmaster skills, I think really help with that. Using gestures, using voice modulation, using all the basic skills you need to communicate in a lecture theatre equally apply to doing ODL. And we just need to work harder to make sure we keep the students engaged.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Flint. Now, Dr. Tamer.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Dr. Shepherd. Yeah, this question is good actually, because that also depends also challenge for the instructor, for a lecturer. For me, yeah, the subjects like thermodynamic engineering, thermodynamics, and also material science. That is usually I have allocated time, slot of time for discussion, student discussion, interaction more. One maybe question we try to share, or to divide them to two groups, the like Zoom breakouts, two groups. Then that is one. Later, the time over, the student will join the general channel to continue. One more thing, actually, you have to use the, in the ODL, the lecture is quite different. You transfer it from classical to this. We have sometime we to explain using the tools like video, like also 3D, and some actually diagrams. It takes a long time, so we will do some round question, but it's still big challenge for the lecturer, and that is one. Another motivation from the way you actually conduct to deliver the lecture, especially in the in science. That is with the interaction, with the way how to explain and give some motivation and throughout the lecture.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tamer. I think that's the questions that we get from our attendees. Thank you very much to our panelists, Prof. Flint, Dr. Kotona, Dr. Tamer, and also our beloved Dr. Rofiza. I would like to ask for our panelists to stay online for a while for us. All right. To our e-forum attendees, I would like to share with you that UITM Cawangan Pulau Pinang offers various postgraduate studies program such as MBA, engineering, pharmacy, health sciences, hotel and tourism, and also applied sciences. So we have experts from these various fields, and we invite and welcome all postgraduate students to join us here in UITM Cawangan Pulau Pinang. So we have prepared a short video for you guys for with regards to our postgraduate programs in UITM Cawangan Pulau Pinang. Thank you. I would like to extend our thanks to all the e-forum attendees and also to our panelists. And on behalf of Starlight, the Office of International Affairs and Academy of Language Studies, University Teknologi Mara Cawangan, Pulau Pinang, we would like to thank all of you and we hope to see you again in our next e-forum. Assalamualaikum and have a great day and stay safe.
Dan terima
Thank you.
kasih kepada